have been freelancers in the past, and yeah, maybe not doing it right now. So I'm also going to rely a lot on you guys too. So we have this panel up here, which is probably too big in retrospect, but they're all very smart people, so that's why I invited.
So who gets voted off the island? Is that
and Terry's first out because he spoke up. That's what happens.
There's a lesson.
Yeah. But first, Casey wanted to do some announcements, so I'll let him do that.
Great. Thanks, everybody, for coming. We've got another big group here today. I wanted to make just a couple announcements. If you're not on our email list, be sure you go to 1millioncups.com/RTP and get on the list. If you would like us just to add your email at the end of the day, just come over, just write your email up on the board. We'll erase it as soon as we get it written down, but if we can write it down, that'd be great. I am running a charity event on Monday, and we actually have a team from this room that is actually competing in that event that could use a little support. So up on the board up there, August Madness is a wheelchair basketball event that takes place, this is the 6th year, takes place at PNC Arena. Pepe and Luis Bronson, who are usually here, but they're not here this week, are competing in that event along with a couple other of their teammates. And they're looking for donations and other things there. So we wanted to just make that announcement. If you have $2, $5, $10, if you just go to the augustmadness.bridgesports.org and hit the donate button, if you've got $5 to give to it, it's awesome. It's a great charity that goes towards events like Valor Games, bringing wheelchair basketball and seated volleyball to middle schools across the state of North Carolina, as well as adaptive sports throughout the entire Triangle area. So just a great cause there. Other than that, we are still pushing out on our LinkedIn pages and on our Facebook pages, so please go there. We also, if you're on Facebook right now, Facebook Live, you're able to share this panel with everyone afterwards on Facebook Live if you are, or the live video will be posted, so you can reshare it. So if there's anyone not in the room today that should have been here, make sure you share that with them through Facebook.
Awesome. Thanks, Casey. Just a note to everybody on the panel, because I didn't say this before, we're on Facebook Live, so try not to say anything too bad about clients. And my clients, I love you.
Unless you want them to know.
Only Chris's clients love it.
Yes, they love me. They know that this is the way I am. So, all right. So first off, I thought we'd just introduce everybody on the panel, have them talk just a little bit about their business, kind of why, you might start seeing why I brought everybody together. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe everybody will sound the same, but I doubt that. So I'm a solopreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for about a little over a year now. I was in research and evaluation for about 13 years. My master's in sociology. I was doing a lot of data collection analysis. Now I draw cartoons and really do a lot of social media stuff, that sort of thing. I'm a fractional chief marketing and design officer is what I do on a day-to-day. I also draw cartoons, illustrate, and run online workshops. It's been a weird move because I thought a year ago I was going to be doing stuff I was doing with my last company. It turns out not to be true. Now I'm doing completely, totally different things than I was doing before. That's my quick introduction. Swan?
Do I stand up or?
Yes.
All right. Hello everybody. My name is Swanand Mokashi and my company's name is Malaika Consultants. So two weird names together, but it works somehow. Anyway, so what we offer is scalable information technology services to our clients. And what I mean by that is we help our clients with their website development needs, their smart app needs, hosting, and everything in between. And the word scalable is very important to us because most of our clients, we are their only IT people. They don't have IT staff of their own. Which helps us in a way, and so we make the technology decisions for them, kind of being the virtual CTOs for them. In order to make this scalable, my team is, I'm here, obviously, and then my team is located in Philippines and in India. Now, in order to make that all workable, why we went to other countries is to make sure that our services are affordable to our clients. And we've been in business now for a little over 10 years, so we passed the startup phase, and I think we are still here. We have some paying clients, which means that we are doing something good. So that's it. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kat Van Fossen. I am a co-founder of a consulting firm called Allevid Advising. Co-founded it with my husband. So we're both, I do marketing strategy, customer experience work. My husband does sales operations. So while we are in the same consulting firm, we actually have never had any clients together. We're both MBA grads and had worked in corporate America for a very long time. I worked at CPGs mostly, a little bit at apparel, and decided I wanted to kind of put my expertise on the client side to use, working with other clients. So I've only been doing it about 8 months now, so I'm probably on the newer side of the startup model, and I'm actually very interested to learn from the others here today.
Hello, my name is Maari Casey, and I am the founder of Uncompany, and what we are is we are a network of the Triangle's top creative freelancers. So my background is I've been in this area for about 13, 14 years. I worked at McKinney, and I've worked at several larger advertising agencies, and then decided to freelancing about 7 years ago. So I've been freelancing for a while. And during that time of freelancing, I really noticed that there was a large move just across the industry towards independent contractors. I think right now it's roughly about 38% or so of the workforce are freelancing in some capacity. And by 2020, it's going to be near 50%. So the workforce is really changing. And while I was working, I kind of noticed that the sum of the consultants I was coming across were very experienced, mid to senior level. And then on the other hand, the clients were not being able to connect directly. They were going through all these other programs, Craigslist, LinkedIn, Working, Not Working, all these other platforms to try to find somebody, and they were going halfway around the world to connect to an avatar who, when I knew there was a great designer just right down the street. And so I started Uncompany under the idea that I wanted to make a connection directly from local top-level freelancers to a client that needed them for creative projects. So from doing that, I started Uncompany probably about 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, and it's developed, or like in mode phase 3.0, I think, right now. And what we've kind of turned our service offerings are is we do kind of traditional recruiting and placing freelancers on an individual basis, as well as from freelance to full-time, and even contract basis. And we also opened a team offerings where we build creative teams, like top-level creative teams, and run agency-style creative services. So we have a couple AOR clients, and they're all run with freelance teams. So Tupelo Honey Cafe is one of our clients. We brought them on in the fall, and we did a whole rebrand for their 15 stores, all with local creative freelance talent. And so the cool thing that we've been able to really see is that we can bring these high-level projects to creative contractors. And I think that's one of the big things we want to do, is really advocate for the freelance economy, and also help clients really see that there's value in freelancers, and hopefully put to rest a lot of the negative sides of freelancing. So that's all I need.
Thanks, Maura. By the way, free infomercial, Tupelo Honey Cafe, if you haven't been there, is a great place to go to. Over near Cameron Village here. In any event, my name is Terry Conlon, and for the last 9 years, I've been a fractional CFO, COO, and executive coach. That's my primary business. And what I do is I work primarily with startups, but sometimes with companies that are needing to reach an inflection point where they can scale themselves very effectively. So I work here out of the frontier. I'm also associated with Entrepreneurship, which has been around for 8 or 9 years, that helps entrepreneurs. I'm also affiliated with Bunker Labs RDU, as well as the RTP Rotary, which has a lot of life sciences startup people associated with them. The reason I do this kind of work is because, quite frankly, early in my career, I didn't have any of this kind of help. It was very unusual to have this kind of capability. And I deeply, deeply believe, based on facts and evidence, that there has never been a better time to be an entrepreneur in America than right now today. And I believe that that's where most of the jobs are going to come from for our kids and for our grandkids. And when you look at both this panel as well as yourselves, and you think about the talent that is assembled in order to be able to help people get their businesses successfully off the ground, that never happened 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 30 years ago. So I'm really, really passionate about helping people get their ideas into the marketplace so that they can make for better communities.
Hey everybody, I'm Kevin Seifert. I'm a photographer. I have a studio that I just opened in March on the third floor of the Frontier building, so I'm very excited about that. That's a definite dynamic change in my business model. I'm a trained photojournalist. I've been a working photojournalist my entire adult life. I even have a degree in photojournalism, so it's kind of a trifecta degree. It's communications, photography, and journalism. My business model early on when I started was really truly a freelancer, where I would go after editorial clients on the assignment model basis, and sometimes I would do some photos, some photography on spec, where I sell to a magazine for what's called space rate. That, as many of you know, journalism's kind of in a downward spiral a little bit, so that's a really tough market. It's very saturated with really great people that I'm sure Maari has worked with and hired in this area. There's a ton of great journalists out here. So my business model has now changed a little bit, or I've added to it. I've become I'm working on the studio model right now. I've done some like real estate things, and I just like Uncompany, I hire freelance photographers, videographers, motion graphics people, all to create a bigger team to serve larger clients. So that's kind of where I am right now. So thank you for having me on the panel.
Yeah, and as we go, especially anybody who's out there in the freelance world or in the consulting world, and everybody calls it a different thing, so feel free to call it what you will. If there are questions that you have, especially if you're just starting up or trying to figure out how to get your business up and running, definitely ask the panel, especially as you get to know these different people up here. I find one of the places I like to go when talking about consulting is really about the challenges and struggles that we've all faced. And I feel like jumping into the freelance world, it's sometimes a little haphazard getting started. You start out maybe with one client or two. You start collecting a bunch of random clients doing very different projects until you figure out what it is that you're actually here to do, what makes you valuable, what people look for in you. Another piece of my backstory, so when I've been blogging, cartooning for years, even in my last professional job. So when I left, I had an established audience of a couple thousand, a few thousand on Twitter, a little about 1,500 via email. So I was already connecting to people. I was already selling them things in terms of, I started my workshop before I left my full-time job. Some people leave with a single client. I left with this idea that I would have multiple clients. So I had a couple. I kept my old business. But my biggest challenge going forward was really consistency in terms of income. Cash flow, I think, hits everybody really hard when they jump into the freelance world. I know in research and evaluation, which is where I was working, and data visualization, reporting, dashboarding, the organizations that you tend to work with, federal government, nonprofit groups, large NGOs, it takes a long time to get work from them. And then once you do get a contract, it takes a long time for them to pay you. So when you match those things up, and then I go home and my wife's like, "Oh, okay, are you getting paid?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have it. It's coming," and then it's just waiting for the process to go. And that was really frustrating. And it's one of the reasons I'm fractional now. And I've shifted my client base from working with these large organizations to smaller ones, where if I work with a small business and they can pay me tomorrow, that's better for me. So even if I charge less or have smaller projects, then maybe some of the bigger NGOs or universities can afford, it's better for me to work with smaller groups, at least I found, and it's more fun. So I've been doing that. Swanand, I know you were a solo for a while and a programmer before really building your team. I'm interested to know a little bit about that.
Sure. I will add to what Chris said, that just to let you know, after 10 years, the questions don't change. So the wife asks same questions. I still don't have answers. The numbers change perhaps, but it's still the same. So anyway, having said that, yes, Chris is right. I started off as a freelancer, and the idea was always that I want to do minimal work and let other people work for me. That didn't pan out very well for the first few years. It was the other way around. I was working a whole lot more than I should have been. But then at a particular point, I decided that, okay, enough is enough. I need to have a proper team in place, people who can take care of business just as I care about my clients, they should care the same way, etc. And once we decided to go outside of the USA and hire some people, obviously there were cultural challenges, there were economic challenges in the sense, I'm from India, so I had a little bit of an advantage there. I could hire people in India, but every year the economics changes in India too, and it's impossible to know what to pay people. and Philippines was an even different area altogether, and it was even tougher to know how the culture works there or how the economics works. But we figured it out eventually. We standardized our hiring processes. We got to the point, even small things like standardizing your company holidays, which is a challenge because every country has their own set of holidays, and if you go a little bit in Asia, they have a lot of holidays. And it's tough to sell that to your clients, especially if they are full-time, you are having them full-time work for your clients and you're telling them, okay, every month, 3 holidays, it's not gonna work out. So that was challenges. So cultural, economic challenges, but finally it came down to sitting down, having a process for it, and implementing the process without exception. That has it.
Oh, sure.
Should I turn the mic back on?
Yeah, go for it. Kevin, I'm interested in some of the challenges you had. I know you were working in the traditional industry, traditional newspaper, print, photography, and losing your job going into the freelance world. How'd that transition go? What did you think you were going to do when you launched in?
Yeah, so it's good perspective on that. So yeah, I certainly thought that I was going to be working for, I would say, local publications, national magazines, maybe even some of the business like associations like AARP puts out a magazine. So they do what's called assignment work, where they come up with a story and you kind of jump on that team. They have a writer and a photographer and an editor assigned to that team. And that's the way the newspapers worked as well. So I worked for newspapers for 13 and a half years. And the way that would work is, I certainly, if I could, pitch my own story and say, hey, I have a human interest story, or there's something, a big event going on that I want to cover before the event starts. That's the approach I thought I would be taking in my business, which would be team up with a writer, get on the publisher's list of preferred vendors, hopefully have that affinity kind of program with that publisher where they really use me all the time. But that just frankly didn't happen, and there was so much competition that I realized that that's not where the money was, and also the pay wasn't that great, and also it wasn't always timely. So you would do an assignment and you'd be out of pocket, you'd have to pay the travel expenses as a freelancer. So that's one difference between being on staff and being a freelancer. So my business model really has changed in the sense of I've, just like Chris does, I've looked for a little bit smaller client that can pay immediately, and then that allows me to take on the bigger clients that don't pay immediately. So one of my biggest clients right now is Duke. I have about 4 different departments or schools that the communications departments use me for just simple things like headshots. I did 100 headshots for the physician's assistant program this past month. I'm doing another 50 for the computer science department. But those checks don't get written until 30 days after I complete the work. So I need to keep that cash flow going. So that's been a huge challenge on me, as well as the fact that I have other things going on, so I can't always schedule those. So that's one reason I'm growing my team now. So for instance, I'm doing the computer science department. I'm actually on vacation, so I'm able to hire somebody that I'm training to do that work, so I'm not totally out of pocket. And they wouldn't take the job because they can't float themselves long enough because they're a freelancer to do it. Whereas my company, I'm well enough established now that I actually have a little bit of capital and a revenue stream. So that's been a big challenge. And then of course, I think we're all probably really great at what we do, and I would love to be taking pictures all day, but I don't have a camera in my hand more than 10% of the time anymore. I mean, when I was working for newspapers, it was 8 hours a day. I'd be out, taking pictures or getting to the assignment and being in front of people, doing post-production, everything. But now it's not the same. So that's probably my biggest struggle is, finding that right client that, can pay me and sees me as, both a professional journalist, storyteller, and an artist as well. So, and there's a lot of business models in here too that I've had to scramble through. So,
I think it's interesting just hearing across the board different types of consultants, because it's really clear that there's a lot of core problems. And I think the way that things are moving with freelancing, growing, it's very much the Wild West. Nothing has really been defined. It's very amorphous. Everyone invoices differently. Everyone's payment terms are different. And I think the tough thing with stuff like that is on our side we face things like lapses in pay, and we don't have insurance, and where are you going to get your next client, and how do you onboard, and then all the contracts are different. And talking to Chris about having to come across professional and general liability for freelancers, and then you're dealing with that kind of stuff. So there's so many unwritten rules that I think on our side it affects us, personally with obviously our cash flow. On the client side, it affects them with when we're processing things with them. Every time they get somebody new in-house, it's a different thing. It's a different story. It's different terms. Some have insurance, some don't. And so to me, it's been a barrier for entry for what I've seen continue to grow freelancing. And so part of what we're trying to do with Uncompany is provide all of our contractors like the same kind of onboarding materials. Here's the same invoice. Here's the same presentation. Here's the same format. Here's your payment terms. And it makes them a little like, oh, but I'm my own business. But it's like we all need structure built around us to be able to move on and do what we want to do, like shoot pictures. I'm sure you don't want to sit in Excel and QuickBooks all day, but it's like all those things have to be set up to run a business. And I think either we're thrown into freelance by a layoff, or we opt into running our own business and consulting. It's still, all that stuff comes back to business. And we all think, like I know I did, I thought I knew what it was like to run a company, and when I was starting out and even working in agencies, I would say, well, I can do this so much better. Like, let me tell you, this is ridiculous. And now that I'm doing it, I can go back and apologize to my past bosses and say, I'm so sorry, let me take you out for a drink. Because now I get it, I get it. And I think a lot of people who start working for themselves and running their own business, whether it's a single shop or if it ends up growing to be a large shop, we all face the same problems, and so part of what we want to try to do with Uncompany is to really put framework around. So when you come in and you're starting your business, or even if you've been doing it for a while, you don't have to worry about all that stuff. And on the client side, they know that anytime somebody comes in, they're going to get the same terms. And we can pass off that onboarding. Whenever you hire a freelancer, you have like a week and a half of like, let me show you. We use Dropbox, and no, we use Google Apps, and standardizing some things. Although getting to one allows us to like just move quickly. And I think what it's going to help to do for clients is to see if this is a workforce that I can activate quickly, and I think it'll help to legitimize us, and it'll also help to protect us going forward, because payment terms are net 30. I ask for 50% up front. That's my standard. You sign the contract, and it's the professionalism, but you have to understand too, like, I need to pay my mortgage. I need to keep my lights on, and so I think if we can continue to kind of put framework around that, then that'll help to alleviate some of the problems we all face with starting up. Because what I've seen just freelance-wide, people start out and they make it about 3 years, and then there's a big drop-off year 3 or year 5. And it's typically because they're not being paid enough. They have the passion to do it, but they're usually not being paid enough, and they're very underemployed. So maybe they're 15-year senior, and then they're doing logo jobs for a dog walking service. They should be doing larger projects for Lenovo and for Coke and these kind of companies. And that barrier to begin a lot of times is what knocks them out of the game. So hopefully we can get to, as the freelance economy is growing, and it's not going away. There has to be some framework set up around it to make it, to push it into like larger opportunities.
Terry, before you talk, and I know you have something to say, I wanted to kind of direct, just because there was something I'm really interested in, and that's there are definitely these little decision points as we go. It's figuring out how much to charge. Maybe you should start charging more. I think everybody's scale tends to go up as they go.
Start charging more.
Yeah, you start charging more and start being choosier on who the clients you take. But the other decision point is usually, okay, should I grow? Should I hire? Should I build my team up? or should I stay solo? And you have stayed solo.
Yeah.
You've joined these other teams, but I'm interested in that as well as whatever you're going to say before.
Yeah, so the reason why I stayed solo, because I faced a lot of the challenges that Mauro was talking about. You have this drop-off year 3, year 4 kind of thing, and in part it's because, not just because of the payment terms and people not doing the things that they said they were going to do, like paying you on time and stuff like that, but you also face, if you haven't put in place a business process framework based on some kind of financial system, based on some sort of CRM system, even if it's only an Excel spreadsheet, then you don't have the ability to do business development, you don't have the ability to have basic data analytics to run your own business, and so people just get discouraged and drop off. There's a book called Traction. Anybody who hasn't read it, who is interested in how you scale your business, you really need to read this book, because what it does is it describes a business system framework that allows you to scale. And for me, I decided that I wanted to stay a solopreneur and engage with other people who have other kinds of services to offer my clients, because it was a lot simpler than running even a small size organization. I had been a CFO pretty much full-time until 2009, and then I became a fractional CFO and COO. And quite frankly, I was tired of running large organizations. I mean, from a 200-person finance organization to a 400-person IT and software development organization, I had just gotten tired of the complexity, and so the ability to and the luxury to be accountable only to yourself, to make the decisions that are important from a business point of view, to do business with the clients that you want to do business with, and the luxury, quite frankly, to, in an ethical way, fire clients that no longer fit your purpose. That's a really important thing. Doing it ethically, doing it right, but finding the time to pull the trigger on clients that really aren't there for you. I mean, people who perpetually pay you late when you find out that other people are getting paid on time. You need to fire those kinds of clients because they're not going to help your business. So you have to have a strong sense of your own business and running your business as a profession, as a business professional. So for all of those reasons and more, I chose to be a solopreneur. And the reality is that in the freelance economy of today, because it's an accelerated trend, right? It's getting more and more so. You can reach out and find all of the marketing, all of the sales, all of the IT, all of the HR, all of the finance, all of the specific technical skills, photography, videography, web development. You can find that all, right? That's why I mentioned right at the top end that there's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur, whether a solopreneur or an agency owner, than right now today.
Thanks. Kat, I'm interested in finding out what it's like, the challenges involved. I know as being solo, and yes, I did have my wife to turn to and talk to about some of the decisions, but it was really kind of my company going in. To start a company with your husband and to be both kind of serving different audiences but coming together and growing a business. How did that go? What are the challenges that you guys are facing?
None. It's marital bliss.
There you go. Secret to marital happiness. Starting a business with your spouse.
I encourage everyone to do that. No, it's we really try to keep it different and separate, just kind of from the standpoint of accounting and that type of thing. We said, okay, we're going to do it together. We're both very competitive people, and so trying to do that and say, well, we're trying to kind of vie for the same clients was tough. So we've tried to stay away from that. What has made it especially challenging for me is that so my husband does sales operations, and I do kind of marketing branding. And the analogy that I like to use is that if you think of a car, sales operations is like the transmission. You can't drive a car without a sales force and without understanding, what their territory is, what their compensation model is. Branding is more like an oil change. it's something you should be doing, but you can drive that car pretty far without doing it. But if you don't, it's going to catch up with you and you're going to suffer from it. But because of that, the way that clients approach that is they say, well, I need the sales operations stuff now. Branding is a nice to have, not a have to have. And so for him, he's been able to scale a lot more quickly than I have for that reason, for kind of the immediacy of it. And so in all candidness, that's what I'm trying to figure out is, okay, so how do I make my proposition then something that clients feel a need to have immediately? And I actually started joining this group because I have a real passion in entrepreneurship and then also in the tech industry. And so because I come from kind of big corporate entities, I wanted to get associated with much smaller companies, with startups. And what I find is talking with tech companies, they're all like, oh my gosh, I want to talk to you. Oh, but you want me to pay you? Okay, so that's been the tough part, is finding where is my client base of not where I can add value. I know I can add value, but where I can add value and get paid.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to get people to open up their wallets, and I think that's usually when you figure out, like, you can get people interested, but can you get them to pay to do what you want to do? I find I can have a conversation with anybody about cartooning, but how many people will pay me, a good $5,000 or $10,000 contract to do it? A lot less. But I'm interested now. The panel's talked for a bit, and it's been really interesting to me, and I could keep going back to it. But I'm interested in you guys out there. I know there are a bunch of consultants. I know there are people who have challenges and other things. We have this panel of a bunch of people who have kind of gone through a lot of that stuff, and I know a lot of people out there have too. Any thoughts from anybody out there, out in the audience, questions, that sort of thing?
Actually, I have one comment, and I can definitely empathize with Kevin. I had to put my company out of business because one of my largest clients in New York City was Columbia University. But one of the things I learned about doing business with those knuckleheads, if you can believe, some of the smartest people in the world, they are atrocious with payments. And everybody runs and hides when the money's no longer in the budget and your invoice is 240 days behind. It's pathetic. But what they did have is a P-card system that allowed small charges per department to be charged on a credit card. And I would think your headshot business is perfect for that because you can get it like now. You pay the points, but it's absolutely worth it. But Maari, you seem to have an interesting platform, and I actually tried investing with a company that didn't go forward, that matched freelance programmers from around the world with gigs. But what they did, what was interesting to me, and what I like most about the model, is they guaranteed not just the service to the customer, but they guaranteed the payment to the freelancer. And if you've got freelancers in Eastern Europe and Asia and all over the place, that's a major problem that they were trying to tackle. They had a bad problem with their initial investors, which is why they didn't go forward. But I'm curious, are you trying to build that into your platform?
So we're a little different, and I can tell you how we're hopefully going to skirt that for now. So when I originally started Uncompany, what I was seeing, and there's a lot of these platforms being developed, and in my industry, advertising, there's a lot of small agencies that are trying to figure out this model. And so we're all working at the same time. And there's been a lot of large platforms, Upwork, Freelancer.com, Guru.com. A lot of them have merged into one gigantic one, and that was really the original online platform for freelance work. And I saw, and then there's also some groups, recruiting groups like the Creative Group, Creative Circle, Acquaint. They do these same kind of recruiting things. What I was seeing, from my perspective at the time, I was just a creative freelancer in the triangle. Was that it really hurt freelancers in the end, because this global, international site, while making, everyone says digital working and we can work anywhere is great, which is true, but to me it really reduced the accountability on both the freelancer side and the client side, and that hurt payment time. To me, that a lot of times they end up delivering a poor creative product. And so the way that they also functioned is these sites were very third party. So they would hold the money in an escrow account, and then there got to be a lot of these back and forth where the freelancer would deliver the work, the client wasn't happy with the work, well, I'm not going to pay, and the freelancer's like, I did the work, and then that just puts them in the middle. And I was like, I don't want to be, you know, counseling back and forth. And so what I was seeing is this, like, the global issue, the global size of these sites was actually hurting and making it harder for people to kind of get work quickly and to deliver a high product. And so my model is based locally, so we're all local independent creative freelancers. I have 350 of them in my database now, and they're just in the Triangle, Greensboro, a few Winston, a few Eastern North Carolina, some Charlotte, but mostly local, because part of what I want to deliver to clients is I tell them, like, we can get together on a weekly basis, monthly basis, depending on your team, and have a meeting so that you can see face-to-face who you're working with. They're more accountable to delivering a good product because you could bump into them in a coffee shop, you know, and you know your name on the street here, if you're a freelancer and you don't deliver a good product, is gonna kill your business. And so I wanted to keep the network tight and small for that reason. And I also thought that helps to advocate for the freelancers here to be able to connect to each other, learn about the mistakes they've made, you know, improve their business model. And so my idea with Uncompany is to solidify the model here and then to like start another pocket in Atlanta, start another pocket in Chicago, and let each group be run autonomy by that city. So the city itself might influence how the network is developing. You know, like Nashville might be more production, music, and event related. Austin might be more, you know, music and arts related. So each city will be influenced, or each pocket of Uncompany will be influenced by the market they're in and run by the freelancers there. And so I'm not trying to dictate what's happening in each of the cities. It's very much run locally, and that to me will help continue this process of payment quickly, because again, the freelancers are accountable to the clients that they can see, and the clients are accountable to the freelancers that they work with, because it kind of goes both ways here. It's like, if I know a client that doesn't pay on time, I sure as heck let everyone else know. Like, if you're going to get in there, you need to negotiate payment terms up front. And so it works both ways. And so to me, keeping it local and keeping everyone accountable and knowing each other is very much how the model can grow quickly. And then the other thing you asked was about payment, and then payment for the freelancers. We guarantee our freelancers, if they're working through us, that they'll be paid net 30 at time of invoicing. If there's any other things that they want to negotiate, like if we have a 6-month contract that we're working with them on, then we can do like 50, 25, 25, 25, or, you know, we kind of take it on a case-by-case basis, but we guarantee net 30, and so we mention that to our clients, and we say that we guarantee net 30 to our freelancers, so we are asking you to guarantee net 30 to us or our payment terms, because when you have an unhappy freelancer, you're going to have a crappy product, you know, and they get that. So that's how we try to skirt those kind of things.
So, question, Cat like you, I was in corporate America for many years, and about 8 months ago went out on my own. But I also have a service that is always undervalued and not necessarily appreciated the ways, you know, certain things are. I'm in talent management or HR, so oftentimes organizations say, yeah, I'd like to have that stuff, but it's a luxury. I need a CFO, but I don't know that I necessarily need this talent stuff. So how do you talk to, or, you know, go after those targets that may not have that awareness or understanding, or even, you know what questions to ask around that, so that you can build some, you know, so they're not always thinking of it as a luxury, but more as a necessity?
I don't know if I have a especially good answer for that. Your name's Paul?
John.
John? I'm sorry.
Close. You got 4 left.
I get, yeah, right. So what I've been doing, because I haven't gotten a lot of traction with like the tech startups that I was hoping to, I have worked a lot with just word of mouth clients that I have, that are like people that I've known in the past who do understand the benefit of it, because I think you have a really hard time trying to sell somebody that is skeptical, as opposed to, like, for me, it's going to be larger companies and larger established brands who realize, yeah, this is something that I need. This is not a you know, luxury for me. So that's kind of been my approach, is that I've had to shift back to doing that. And a lot of the stuff that I do is more content marketing driven, which is because I have a pretty wide network. I write a lot of articles just to kind of stay top of mind and talk to different people, and I'm always reaching out. Like, for me, it is all about networking, and I do that a lot. So it's kind of, you know, my approach or strategy has been to go towards the people who are going to be friendly towards my services in the first place, and it's a matter of getting them to pick me over somebody else that they would be picking. But yeah, that's a good point. That's tough to do.
Yeah, I'd like to do it too.
Yeah, as a coach, I'm kind of in the HR business as well, because coaching fundamentally, at least in my space, has to do with senior professionals, managers, as well as C-levels, right? And so one of the things that you have to get used to is in sales speak, these are complex service sales. So you have to have about 10 to 12 touches over a period of months, sometimes 18 months, in order to be able to get in and see a decision maker who has enough trust in you in order to be able to provide the service. So I also do fractional CFO work, but I have to tell you, I like the coaching work a lot better. Although payment terms are harder there, and one of the things that I've learned to do is be absolutely ruthless with clients that don't pay on time. They get one warning, and then they're done. And then they don't come back on board. But on the sales side, you have to be prepared to always be in business development mode, and you have to have a generous heart. You have to be willing to help people and give advice to people. And everybody's head nodding on this panel because we all know that that's part of both our selling and our marketing strategy is to be generous. And when we encounter the relatively few people that are not generous, then don't waste time with them. The other thing that you need to do when you're selling HR or coaching services is you really need to have a formal business development strategy. You need to have some sort of CRM, and you need to figure out how it is that you're going to network into the companies that you want to sell your services to. You just have to do that, right? Because that makes you not just efficient, but it makes you effective too.
Thanks, Terry. And one other thing on that, just on how my business, because my business has grown a little bit differently than I think some others, in that my clients, even though I'm here and I come here every week and do a bit of networking, my clients are in British Columbia, New Zealand, California, Portland, the UK, and I have students across the world too. Is that there is a new way to scale. It's like there's a scale local, scale with a lot of networking, but there's also the scale digitally. And for me to scale digitally means putting more emphasis on blogging, on doing contact stuff via the web where I can reach out to a broader audience and offer specialized services to that broader audience. So I also have a workshop. That workshop provides me with about 75% of my fractional month-to-month clients come through my digital workshop. So they start, I find the people who are willing to pay to learn from me, even at a small level, those are the people who will pay for my services later. So it kind of sets up this nice little pipeline that works pretty well. It also gives me a scalable out in that the more I go, the more I can shift and try to build my digital part, the part that doesn't require me to spend my time. If I can grow my workshop, I can cut down on my clients, my freelance clients, and raise my rates. And as somebody who works in a specialty area or an area that people only think of every once in a while, there's a pretty big audience out there, but you need to look beyond like your local geographic area and look for those people that are likely going to be your good clients.
Can I add one more quick thing? And one suggestion I would have too is there's several folks at Uncompany who are like strategists and some like more specific types of things. And what they've found, how they found success is also just partnering, with another person to pull them in. Like we have a strategist that we work with, a strategist and a planner. And in an agency, it's really easy to understand how they would fit because they're part of the whole wheel. When he started working, when he launched his company, he was having a hard time, again, conveying his value and being paid for where he should be paid, based on his experience. And so we've started pulling him into projects, and so it allows us to get larger projects because we're like, of course, we have a strategist. We can start at the beginning and lay the roadmap, and it allows him to take a part of our larger projects too. And so that's a suggestion I would find somebody that would complement your services or that you typically would hire together. Like maybe you have a recruiter that you're working with and you kind of come in as a package. And that can just help you. It helps obviously expand your network because then also the person you're partnering with, you get to leverage their network. But then it also is like, you kind of convey legitimacy more when you're partnered up to in those instances.
One of the underappreciated areas of business development, I would say, is referrals. So especially if you are in a specialized area, then actively and periodically keep asking for referrals from your current or past clients. They have already used your service, they know the value that you bring. So once they know that, they might know some other people who would, and it would be an easy sell for you because somebody has already worked with you.
But
so
you
that,
have to ask.
yes, you have to periodically and actively ask.
If the panel will maybe move down the line and take a crack at a couple of these questions, or these two questions. Hire a freelancer when, and hire a freelancer for fill in the blank skill.
So what is the question?
The question is,
When would you hire a freelancer?
When?
Hire a freelancer when, and hire a freelancer for what skill, fill in the blank skill.
So are you asking on behalf of the client, or I'm not sure I quite understand.
I was afraid of that.
Yeah. See, Paul, I think one of the challenges is, you know, right now there are freelancers, like Terry mentioned before, that do everything. Like anything you can imagine, there's probably somebody out there who will do it for you. And I think it's really about understanding where your challenges are, where the tough parts, or the things that you know you don't understand that you wish you knew better, where you can rely on experience. But I don't know, that's my thought.
Is it the customer point of view, or is it the service provider?
I was thinking the customer point of view.
Well, to answer the question selfishly, yes, for IT services, you should always go for a good consulting company. That's one.
Yours specifically.
Yeah, Swanand
Yes,
Associates,
yes,
Malaika
specifically
Consultants.
Malaika Consultants. You should go with that.
Yeah.
I know the people there; they do a great job. So, but in my opinion, anything that is not your core business should not be done by your company. It should always, unless you are big enough to afford people who are on your own payroll. But if it doesn't pertain to your core business, let somebody else do it, and that should be on day one, really, to answer the when.
I think you should, if you're saying, should I hire a consultant as opposed to stay in-house, or should I hire a freelancer versus a large consulting firm? What's the question?
I think the question really, it originates with Chris's observation. Freelancing encompasses so much. So I was interested in, it's sort of a thought experiment of, I would be looking to hire a freelancer versus creating an in-house position.
Yeah. I think what I've found in one area where I've been able to add value has been so many different companies. They're strapped for time and for resources. And so while they want to be able to do things, they just don't have the time to do that. And so with the type of work that I do a lot of branding work, but then I try and really take that through to the sales piece of it. So, okay, we've done this branding work. Now, how do we then translate that into what the sales organization can understand, or what the finance organization can understand? That's the type of stuff that typically is done in-house, but just because they don't have the time to do it, I've kind of taken that on to kind of add in to the type of stuff that I do.
And we can keep going on this one. Sorry, Paul, I know you asked for everybody.
That's okay.
But I'd also like to get a couple more questions.
Okay, I'll go really fast. So I think you should start hiring a freelancer now. I think everyone should be hiring them because it's not changing, and companies are getting smaller and marketing budgets are getting cut. It's just, and one of the things that we're doing with Uncompany is we're working with companies to develop a freelance bench, and what that would be is we complete all the onboarding and the hiring times, and we know your culture, so that bench is ready to activate when you need them. And I would encourage every company should have freelancers on standby that they feel comfortable with, that they know they can come in quickly. It should start immediately. You shouldn't wait, which always happens. When as soon as they need a freelancer, they're 6 months behind. And so it stresses the situation. My encouragement would be for everyone to start hiring freelancers now, even if they have that position in-house, because you're going to have people go out on maternity leave, or you know, they leave, they quit on Thursday. So just having that bench ready to activate to me is just essential. The other thing is you should hire blank freelancers. I think it was the next thing. I agree with what you're saying. Like, you don't need to hire full-time people when it's not a position that's going to be crucial to your business long term. Like, if I'm an advertising agency and all of a sudden I decide to bring in an interactive client, I probably shouldn't fill my agency full of developers. You know, because that client can go away in 6 months, and then I'm on the hook for 6 salaries and 6 relocations. So hiring is one of the most expensive things that you can do as a company. Hiring and losing. So knowing what you really need to crucially run your business is what you should hire for, not maybe we want to expand our company into interactive. So that's just quick.
Can I comment on that real quick?
Sorry.
Oh, sure.
Now we get the question. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So in terms of hiring a freelancer versus like training somebody, or hiring subcontractors. So in my business, photography, there are a lot of great photographers out there. So if there's a certain thing that I'm doing that's taking me a lot of time, but I can train somebody to do it, there's something called the 30-hour rule. If you can train that person in 30 hours, then you can bring them on full time, and they're going to create enough business or take that away from you so you're not losing money. So that's a really great way to think about it. If it's something like he said, it would be the idea of now I lost my train of thought because I think there's, but the idea of if it's not something you can do, if you're not good at financials and that's not part of your business, freelance that, outsource that. So that'd be my comment. The 30-hour rule is a really good rule to go by. So
back in the corner. And then.
Hi, my name is Julia. I'm actually running a small business. I've been doing freelancer before, and I have hired freelancers before. I don't use any freelancers at the moment. My challenge as a business owner is that how do I manage these freelancers? It takes my time. I don't know how much time I should set aside. If I give them too little time, it makes it very hard for them to succeed because they need information from me, but I don't have time for it.
Yeah, so let me take a crack at that as an infomercial for Mara. If you engage her and her company, they've pre-qualified them. They've lined them up. They've tested the quality of these people, and they can honestly counsel you on where and when you should be hiring freelancers.
That's great.
Yeah, and
We also have project managers.
But
Yeah.
time-wise, as an owner, what is kind of the recommendation? Say, if you hire, let's say, someone to do branding or sales or IT,
Yeah.
how much time do you set aside for them so that they can succeed? Because after all, they are still part of your business. You need to manage them, right?
Right. So I coach a lot of C-levels, and the answer to this question is really the minimum amount of time necessary for the project to succeed, because largely it's project-centric work, right? It's defined by a time limit, it's defined by a set of deliverables. So you don't need to make them part of your team in a team-building sense, and in fact you don't want to do that for other legal reasons. So you don't have to treat them, and you shouldn't treat them like they are regular core employees.
And one other thing to say on that, it's kind of also how you find good freelancers is most of the time people hire freelancers because they don't know what they're doing there, so they want somebody to just come in and take it over and do a really good job, have a process in place. Building your own process is what I think consultants do. Experienced ones have it. Inexperienced ones have poor process and take a lot of management time.
Excellent
This
presentation.
is the last question.
Oh, great. Excellent presentation by everybody. I just have a thought, and maybe it can be turned to a question. Why don't you up front just have people pay you straight out for your services rather than give them 30 days or time? It seemed like they would take more advantage of you in the free market.
Yeah, so my answer is that I try to sell coaching services via a fixed package, right? Not everybody wants to pay that way. But for the most part, nowadays I can be selective, and I don't charge by the hour anymore. There's certain X that you get for a certain bronze, silver, and gold level of service and coaching. The other thing that I try to do when onboarding people is to be really, really honest with folks around terms and conditions. I try to get electronic payment going so that the payment can take place at the time that the service is provided. And that's the CFO in me. because, quite frankly, I don't want to spend a lot of time collecting past due accounts. I've done that. I did it for a living, and it's a pain in the ass. And I especially don't want to do it when my better use is as a coach helping people to become better leaders.
And how you get paid really depends on the clients that you're going after. If you're working with big organizations that have accounting departments and legal teams, it's going to take you a while to get paid. If you're working with like small business people who can pay up front, I love those clients. I go after those clients all the time because they're my favorites. You know, I want to thank everybody for coming on. I want to thank the panel too. I hope this was useful. This is the first time we did it. Put your comments out if you liked it, if you didn't like it. We'll try to do something like this again. If you did, this won't be an every week thing, but so just let us know. Before we go, Chris is not here, so any community announcements? Anybody have anything they want to? Yeah, JV, I know you can speak loud, so I won't come back there.
Thanks a lot. Just a reminder, September 19th, Tuesday, September 19th, 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock in this room, Million Cups RTP is hosting a fall event. It is a free event. Believe it or not, they will give you food. Free. They're working together on what the conference is going to be about, but you can go up to PrideCampRTP.org. Under event, you can register, or you can go to the Pride Camp RTP meetup group and register through that. So you have two methods of registering for the event. And anybody involved in product development or introduction at any level should come to the product we've been talking about. Hear about a product. Who are we? Who are our business? It gives you a chance to talk to people about different aspects of business.
All right, thanks, JV.
Competing with that event on the same night. I'm Tara Lynn Groth. September 19th at 6 p.m. in Graham at the Cooperative, which is a co-working space. I'll be presenting liabilities of journalism. So if you are interested in freelance journalism, or if you've done that before and kind of need a little refresher, it's a free event. I launched a crowdfunding campaign earlier this summer called Project Freelance, and that is supporting a monthly free seminar in a different city every month. So you can check out taralynngroth.com or Google Project Freelance, and all the dates and information are on there too. It's an Indiegogo campaign.
And Tara and JV are going to come up and write something on the board too.
Oh, sure, that as well.
Also, can you guys hang around for a few?
Yeah.
Does anybody need to run? Okay. If you need
I've got a
managed
community
IT,
announcement.
CFO stuff, marketing, creativity, photojournalism, cartoons, marketing, design, you can come up and talk to us too. But go ahead, Tara.
Yeah, so if some of you are interested in launching your own businesses, one of the ways that you can educate yourself as to whether or not you want to, Entre.org, which is on this premise on the third floor, go to their website, take a look at kind of the entrepreneur's journey and figure out whether or not you really want to do this. If you really want to, you can see me, you can see Brad Leinhart, you can see Bill Warner, all of whom have been working in this space for at least 8 or 9 years, right, as coaches and as consultants. So you can educate yourself and figure out whether you want to do this or not.
Finally, I would like to thank Chris for taking the lead on all of this. This was his brainchild, so thank you for having us.
Well, thank you all. Have a good week. Next week, back to a real regular startup presenter, not an expert panel. But and there are tons of you out there I could have invited, I didn't, so sorry for that. But thanks, everyone.